Okay, let's get started. So these are today's learning objectives. So for a bronze, we're going to work on extracting information. For a silver, we are going to interpret the intended outcomes of some persuasive language and to justify how we get those interpretations. And finally, for a gold level, we are going to put all of our skills together and we're going to analyse the different ways in which messages can be presented to the watcher or to the reader. Right, so let's have a little look at the Google Docs that you're going to be working on today. Notice that I have made it purple for our chocolate theme. So having a little look here, what you're going to do is you're going to work through each of the tasks on the sheet one by one. So when you're watching this video, I'm going to tell you about each of the tasks individually. You can pause it, do the task, and then come back to the next one. Here we are, task number 1. So the first task that you are going to be doing today is working on your comprehension skills. So this is your list and find, your skimming and your scanning skills, which you have practiced before. So having a little look here, this is the advert or the graphic organizer that you are going to be using during this task. Now this is just a small version of it. The rest of it you'll find linked in the Google Classroom task. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be reading the whole thing and answering these questions on the Google Doc in the correct spaces. So the first question is, when did the new chocolate bar appear on the shelves? The second one is, what kind of people did they have on their team to produce the chocolate bar? Number 3, when did they do consumer research on their chocolate? And number 4, what was the rating they received in the most recent tests? So have a go at reading the 30% less sugar Cadbury's advert and answering those questions, and then come back for further instructions on task number 2. Welcome back. So presumably you have done task number 1 now and you're hungry for task number 2. Well, here it is. So what you're going to do is use the same document that you just examined to find the answers to those comprehension questions. You're going to look at it a little bit more closely for the next 2 questions. So the first thing that you're going to be doing is explaining 2 reasons why a customer might want to choose this chocolate bar rather than the normal one. So I want you to try and find 2 different reasons for this, and you'll see that there is a table in the Google Doc for you to use, and it says here reason and then explanation. So find a reason why someone might want to have that chocolate bar rather than the regular bar, and then explain why. Okay, so find a reason, then try and back up your ideas, justify it, but make sure that you try and base it on the graphic organizer, on the information that is there. So find the answers to those 2 questions, have a go, and come back for me to explain part 2 of task 2. Alright, part 2 of task 2, and I know how much you just adore writing P chains, and actually, let's be fair, we've got to practice those skills and you're getting a little bit better at it, so really well done. So this is what you're going to be answering using P. How does the advert persuade you to trust them? So you're looking for little details in the graphic organizer that make you think, yeah, this information's really trustworthy. They know what they're talking about. You need to try and justify that to us. So I've given you here some sentence starters to help you write your P chain, and you'll notice I've added an L on the end, so link. So we've got the advert persuades us to trust them by. So try and find a thing that they do to make you trust them. Find a quote to back that up. Explain it. So how is that persuasive? Because if we're looking at the wording of the question here, we'll notice that it has the words how, persuade and trust, which are bold and underlined. Those are the key words of the questions there. And then you want to link it back to that question there. So it might make a reader trust them as. So there are your sentence starters. So have a go at writing a P chain to answer that question and come along back. Right, For task number 3, you are going to be using PAFT to pick apart some adverts. So I'm going to show you how to use PAFT, what it's all about and why it's such a useful skill. Now you probably have used this before, so for some of you it will be a bit of a reminder, a bit of a refresher, but for some of you you might need to go over it again, or it might be completely new. So let's have a look. So PAFT stands for P for purpose, A for audience, F for format, and T for tone. So these are the questions you're going to ask yourself when you're looking at a piece of text to really try and figure out, what it's all about. So for the purpose, think, why has this been made or written? What is the point? What is the purpose of this piece of writing or this advert, for the example that we're going to look at? For the A, who is expected to read or watch this? So who is their intended audience? Who do they want to look at this? And then you're going to look at the format. So what is it? Is it a speech? Is it an advert? Well, I've already told you it's an advert, so there you go. You have that one for free. And then finally, the tone as well. So how have the ideas been expressed? What kind of mood is used when expressing those ideas? So is it very serious, or is it quite light-hearted? So use your best judgment to try and figure that out. It's worth knowing that when using PAFT to pick apart a piece of writing, you can also use it backwards. So you can use it as the building blocks for planning a piece of writing as well, particularly effective for persuasive writing. So we'll use PAFT backwards when we actually come to writing our own chocolate advert a bit later on. So this is the table you're going to be looking at in your Google Doc, and yes, you'll notice that I have made some little chocolate bar bullet points there. I know, very cute. So what you're going to be doing is picking apart the advert you're going to be looking at in a minute and figuring out the purpose, the audience, the format and the tone of the piece. But we're going to do a practice together to prepare you for that. So what we're going to do first is figure out the purpose. So we're going to look at this 30% sugar, less sugar, advert that we've already been kind of looking at already. We'll be very familiar with it. So let's think about the purpose. So we know that it's to give information, and it's also to persuade us as well, isn't it? And what I've done is I have highlighted those 2 bullet points to show that that's what I think about this particular example, and I'm going to answer the how do you know box. I'm going to justify this. So I've said it has lots of facts and statistics which show it's giving us information about the chocolate. It's telling us straight away it's 30% less sugar, so it's giving us that information that we need. I could go on to explain why it's persuasive, but I want to leave that to you. So then moving on to the audience, so I'm fairly certain this is targeted at adults, and I'd also say it's targeted at fans of chocolate. So I've highlighted those 2 and now I'm going to explain it. I've said it's quite a simple design which might appeal to adults because we're boring and we like things that are very simple. It uses the words Cadbury lovers, which suggests people who already eat chocolate are a target. So they're trying to get those people to buy this product. Then looking at the format, it's an advert, there we are. And it's showing off a new product for sale, it's advertising this to us. So that's the format of this piece. And then finally the tone. So I've said that it's quite informal in the way it presents its ideas. So I've said the word hooray is quite informal language, celebratory little word there's not too formal. And I've also said that the exclamation marks make it quite playful. It's you wouldn't necessarily use a lot of exclamation marks in a very serious piece of writing. It's playful, it's fun, it's light-hearted. So that's why I've said this is an informal piece. So what I'd like you to do is have a look at the dark milk advert that has again been put on Google Classroom. So have a watch of that one first, and I'd like you to do the same thing with your table in your Google Docs. So you're going to analyse that. So you're thinking about what the purpose is of it, who the intended audience are, the format and the tone. And for that particular advert, I want you to justify your ideas. So how do you know from looking at the advert who it's for and why it's been made, etc. So have a go at doing that one, and then come back for the fourth and final task of this week's lesson. Okay, the fourth and final task of this week's lesson. So what I'd like you to do is write a couple of paragraphs in your own words to answer the following questions. What is the message of this advert? How does the advert express this message? What is the PAFT of this advert, and how do you know? So putting together all of the skills that we've practiced this lesson and in previous lessons to answer those questions. Now this is on the Alien Cadbury's advert, which is slightly different to the dark milk one. So that is going to be the focus of this particular part of the lesson. And I'd like you to follow some success criteria to make this as professional as possible. So first of all, make sure that you are clearly justifying the ideas that you get, clearly explaining yourself. Use your best spelling and grammar as always. I'd like you to look closely at the evidence used on the advert, so the music, the little characters that are used, how the advert kind of changes from start to finish, like what happens there in the sort of storyline, I suppose, of the advert, the colours that are used, the tone, and also the energy levels of the advert as well. So you're thinking about who this appeals to, why it's been made, and also what is the message and how it gets that message across. So it's up to you how you structure your answers to this question, but I would recommend perhaps answering each question in a separate paragraph and in order if you'd like some kind of structure to follow. So good luck with that final task, and I will see you next week.